it actually did, and it depends on the context, and that's like for a whole nother episode about box checking.
Boxes.
Yeah, but what about you? Do you ever feel like you mash up one way but don't necessarily look that way to outsiders?
Well, my box is very simple. No. I think the thing is that as a Korean American, both of whose parents are ethnically Korean, my insides do match my outsides, except when, in the States, people are like, wow, you speak English so well.
I mean, you really do speak English very well.
Thank you. I really try. Or where are you from? Where are you really from?
Ugh.
And like I've said many times, Chicago.
Right. And that's a challenge for so many people in so many different ways. One of our guests today, whose voice you may recognize, has a really poignant take on how that affects his day-to-day.
Like, if I could really just choose, I would be Latino. I actually have like all kinds of hang-ups because I'm not Latino enough. My Spanish is terrible. I'm actually peeling right now because every year, the first time I get a chance to be in the sun, I will go and burn myself so that I can look. This isn't fooling anybody. I mean, this isn't like nobody like sees me on the street and suddenly it's like, oh yeah, there's a Mexican, there's a Salvadoran. It's not. So I wish I could choose to be Latino.
That was Jonathan Menjivar, producer and reporter at This American Life, one of our favorite podcasts. He and the incredible Hillary Frank, creator and host of one of our other favorite podcasts, Longest Shortest Time, came to Mashup HQ to talk about parenting, language, storytelling, the mashup life.
Hillary is a Russian Jewish mashup who grew up in New York, and Jonathan is a Mexican-Salvadoran white Kentuckian mashup who grew up in Southern California. They have a daughter, Sasha, and are navigating all of this just like we are.
We won't keep you from H&J any longer. On to the show. Hillary and Jonathan, can you tell us how you met?
We met by Jonathan spilling coffee all over me.
That's like very when Harry met Sally.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. It was a real meet cute. We were at a radio event. I needed to meet Hillary because we were going to be talking together. Like we got invited to speak at some conference. I don't know. I think I had just basically said hello to you and then was saying goodbye and spilled a whole cup of coffee.
Hot? Cold?
Hot coffee.
Hot coffee.
I was wearing a winter coat.
Yeah.
Okay, so this wasn't like that woman who sued McDonald's for getting hot coffee on her lap?
No. But there was like right away okay, now I have to help clean her up, and then like, oh my God, like I'm dangerously close to her breasts.
I think more importantly, we just talked about Hillary's boobs on our show, which seems like really vital.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm winning this interview right now.
Wait, so you met at a radio conference. You had a brilliant moment where you spilled coffee on each other, and then it was off to the races as a couple. Like, what happened?
We were both in other relationships.
One of those.
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
Know the feeling.
And then a year later we weren't. So, yeah.
And that's amazing. And you have your daughter, Sasha.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
She's 7 years old. She's in first grade. She has a lot to say.
So she's a storyteller like her parents.
She's just a talker.
Actually, she is not like us at all. Hillary and I are both sort of shy. Like at parties, we'll be in the corner spilling coffee on each other.
Just that's your opening move.
Yeah.
Just in general.
Yeah. It's just a way to avoid talking to people. But she, in a room, even like at a family party with adults, and we do not recognize who she is. She's not like either of us at all.
That's kind of amazing that mashup also happens too, right? Because you just make assumptions about this extension of yourself that you're creating in your family, and then they're like, nope.
Yep.
Two introverts can make an extrovert.
I'm projecting a lot onto my 7-month-old right now, so we'll see what happens with that. So, Jonathan, how do you mash up?
I mean, I generally refer to myself as Latino, which means my father's from El Salvador, my mother is half Mexican, And then she has or had a mysterious American father who I don't really know. I know he was from Kentucky.
And I am a Russian Jew. And as far as I know, all Russian Jew, but I don't really know anything about my dad's side of the family. So we're assuming like Eastern European at least.
Mm-hmm.
Have you guys ever done your 23andMe's?
No.
We have not, which we should probably do, because there's a theory that I might actually be Jewish.
I love this theory. Can you tell us about this theory?
Well, there are only two places that Menjivars exist. One is in Spain, the other is in El Salvador. I just read up a little bit on it and have talked to a few people about it because Spain is right now offering citizenship to people who were Jewish who were kicked out, and you don't necessarily have to have been. You could be like me, not identify as Jew at all, as Jewish at all now, because why would you? Hundreds of years down the line.
And we're talking about being kicked out in the Inquisition.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, around that time. I mean, there. I think people were at various points being kicked out of Spain, but
yeah, that's sort of a tradition with Jews getting kicked out.
There's a Menjivar in Spain who's done the research and says like that's what happened. That a bunch of Jewish Menjivars left Spain, and that's why they're in El Salvador. So I might be one of those. Although when I asked my dad about it, I mean, he just laughed in my face. He had no idea what I was talking about. So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I don't know why we light the candles on Friday night,
Right,
and we
right.
also like have this kind of braided bread as part of our family tradition.
Well, I have two
It's
things
weird.
about that. One is that the likelihood that you are actually related to Rebecca in El Salvador is not low. It feels like
Right,
If
right.
they're
as a
Jews.
Jewish Salvadoran.
Yeah.
But also, Hillary, how do you feel about that? Maybe Jonathan is a Jew.
I mean, that would really make my relatives happy. I mean, so I think when we first started dating, my mom really wanted me to be with a Jew. If I had been able to be like, well, he might be, that would have really helped my case.
Was it ever like tickling in the back of your mind that you wanted to marry a Jewish person?
No, that didn't matter to me. It was just meeting someone I wanted to be with.
Mm-hmm. I think I would have probably gone into any relationship with that point of view. It was surprising to me that like after I got married, even like after I decided that this was the person that I was going to spend the rest of my life with and like create a family with, then things started to matter that didn't matter before.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely started asking myself questions about how I wanted to raise my kid at that point, but it wasn't like, oh, this would be so much easier if I was just with a Jew, because within like Jewish traditions, I have questions of what I even want to do.
Right.
And was there any issue for you, Jonathan? Did you ever think I'm going to marry a Jew?
There was no issue for me. I mean, it was sort of like a thing I didn't even think about, which then maybe caused some problems. I mean, just like my family just strangely seems to have never encountered Jews before. I'm from California, from Southern California.
I'm the first.
Where there are plenty of Jews, but somehow
I represent them here. Yes,
Yeah.
there are certainly a lot.
But somehow my family never encountered any of them, and so it has just meant that Hillary gets unintentionally offensive questions whenever we see
Or statements.
whenever we see my family.
Just
Yes.
statements of relative fact.
Lots of stuff about Jews and money. What else?
Yeah, I've learned that Jews spend a lot of money on weddings. That's one fact
That's a fact.
I've learned. Yeah. And they're so interesting looking.
Oh, Jews are very interesting.
Jews
looking.
are very,
Oh.
and there's a lot of like, so really like no Christmas, like nothing at all, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
How did you guys as a couple kind of navigate that? I mean, because I think we talk a lot about intention, right? And how do you give somebody the benefit of the doubt? And also, at some point, you're like, okay, why should I always feel uncomfortable? I mean, there's a range of reacting. And how do you guys navigate that in the beginning of your relationship? Like, let's say the first time somebody said, like,
Jews are great at money, aren't they, Hillary?
I think I recognized in those early moments that this was not intentional, and Jonathan was good at receiving my thoughts about it, and so like he could acknowledge like, yes, that is a thing that my family member shouldn't have said, but then we can laugh about it together because I actually find the comments funny if he's able to also acknowledge like how it sounds to me.
That makes sense. That completely makes sense.
Yeah,
Because
kind of
the
being
feeling
seen in
alienated
that.
within your unit would be very different than if you guys are in it as a team.
Yeah.
And if I felt like it was aimed at me, then it would be different. But it's more just like stereotypes.
Right. Do you think about your daughter facing those? Like even within the family structure, or even, now she's in school and she's really building like an independent life on her own now.
I mean, it's interesting with her because she doesn't look like any of the ethnicities that she is. And
Not like a Russian Jew, not Salvadoran, not Mexican,
right.
Not Kentuckian.
not Kentuckian.
So she could, I think, choose to identify with whatever she wants.
Which has been the case for me, too, I think. I don't look particularly Latino.
Right.
So.
I think it was interesting, Jonathan, you said earlier that you generally call yourself Latino because you pass. You've been, as like a kind of mainstream white American, that you've been able to choose.
Yeah.
What like triggers the choice? Like what makes you choose one instead of the other in different scenarios?
I don't think I'm ever really choosing. Like if I could really just choose, I would be Latino. I actually have like all kinds of hang-ups because I'm not Latino enough. My Spanish is terrible. I'm actually peeling right now because every year, the first time I get a chance to be in the sun, I will go and burn myself so that I can look. This isn't fooling anybody. I mean, this isn't like nobody like sees me on the street and suddenly it's like, oh yeah, there's a Mexican, there's a Salvadoran. It's not. So I wish I could choose to be Latino. But yeah, if I could speak Spanish, if I was fluent in Spanish, then I think it wouldn't be an issue. Then I would know, like, deep down, that's what I am. But for some reason, because I sort of feel like I have nothing, I'm grasping at being Latino, even though, like, that's very much what I feel like I am. Like, that's the culture that I grew up with. Like, I'm the first of my family born in this country, but I'm pretty whitewashed.
So what in your home then, in your Mexican-Salvadoran Kentuckian home in Southern California, what languages were spoken, or how did you communicate with your parents and your grandparents?
My parents got divorced when I was really young. They split up when I was 2, but until I was about 5 years old, it was Spanglish in my house. That's what my mom was speaking to me. And then my dad was trying to speak more Spanish with me whenever I would see him. But even my mom's Spanish was broken because she's of a generation that was told not to speak Spanish when she went to school. Like, she kind of speaks Spanish like a child. She stopped as a kid and then relearned in her 20s. Now her Spanish is actually really good because she's like, late in life, she's like fell into this community. She hangs out with a lot of gay Latino boys.
That sounds like the best time.
Yeah,
Yeah, great scene.
And so like guys my age, and so she's speaking Spanish all the time. So her Spanish is really strong now. But when I was a kid, I think even her Spanish wasn't great.
For me, a lot of the words I know, my vocabulary in Spanish is like things in our house.
Right.
Right. Right. And
Yeah.
so I wonder for you, what are some of your vocabulary words that, because from your mom's sort of Spanglish and at home, that you feel that are a part of you, that are easy or natural for you to use?
I mean, chancla. That's
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
It's all food stuff, I think.
Yeah.
You know?
Pupusas.
Pupusas, yeah.
You call the cat gato. You say like, ay, gato.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing. Yeah, that's the way that Hillary and I recognize that deep down we are who we say we are, is that I say I and oof, and you say
Oi.
Yeah. Like when things like, something falls down in the house or something, We react naturally in our own native languages.
But the nice thing about oof is that really has an overlap. Oof is like it's both Yiddishy and Latin and Spanishy.
Yeah.
Oof. Oofa.
I call Sasha Mija, and I was called Mijo all the time. That rolls off my tongue without even thinking about it.
Hillary, what makes you feel Jewish? Like, what's the connection that you have to your culture?
So my connection is almost entirely by food and also humor. And like that self-deprecating, weird, absurd humor. But with the food thing, like, you know, the way we do Jewish holidays in my house is like the style of they tried to kill us, we survived, let's eat.
Dig that.
So
It can never be enough food.
That's like what I want to pass down to Sasha is like we are a marginalized people, and you know, sort of what I hope by passing on traditions to her is that I'm doing my small part in helping us become less marginalized. And like, I don't want to see like Jewish Americans go extinct. Like I don't want us to assimilate so much that the culture completely dies. There's parts of it that I grew up with that I don't feel are important to me personally. The religion piece of it is not a piece that really resonates with me. I had a bat mitzvah. If Sasha decides that's a thing that's really important to her, I'll support her in it, but I'm not gonna, you know, walk her through that if she doesn't want to. I'm more just interested in the culture and passing down, like, these are the rituals, these are the traditions. This is just like, these are the stories and this is what they mean.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like there's like resiliency built into the they tried to kill us.
That's right. Yeah.
If anything, I mean, we haven't explicitly said this to Sasha, but that's a thing that ties both of our identities. It's like, especially now, she's aware that like that Latinos are marginalized, and then we have Jewish holidays where we talk about like the reasons that Jews had to run, but like we're here and we're proud of who we are, you know. Mm-hmm.
Everybody else really cares too. And this was actually one of those funny things. I mean, we always share the story that my husband, Gabriel, he's half Colombian, half Mexican, also the first person in his family to be born in the U.S. He had this moment, like, but when we got married, but we were like thinking about starting a family, and he was like, oh my God, what if our kids look Asian? I was like, yeah. I mean, it seems pretty likely that that's going to be the outcome. Yeah. Also, it doesn't matter if they look Asian because they are Asian.
Right.
You know, and there's something about that. But then, like, I really cared that, like, I would see other adventurous, like, kid eaters eating kimchi, and my kids weren't eating it yet. And it felt, like, really stressful and important to me.
Yeah.
But, like, it's like cabbage. Like, what 3-year-old loves cabbage? You know, like, why am I stressing out about this?
Well, it's also, let's be clear, it's fermented cabbage.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
But, like, have there been things, so, like, little surprising things that you're like, oh, I had no idea that I would be so invested in Sasha doing this or not doing this?
She does not like spicy food at all. By her age, there was, like, chili with eggs at the table. There is a part of me that's like, I messed this up, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Sasha does not like latkes.
What?
Because she doesn't like potatoes.
Right.
What? Rebecca is shaking her head.
I mean, but this isn't even just Jews.
But this is like
just like
hash
fried
browns?
potato.
Just fried. I know. We've tried to say it's basically a French fry. Come on.
But she only likes a very particular kind of French fry.
Yeah.
That is like completely crispy, and there is that kind of tender middle of a latke.
She'll come
Where
around.
do you get a crispy French fry?
She liked like the dregs from In-N-Out.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, those
Right,
like crispy
right.
bottom bits.
Yeah.
That, like,
Yep.
I respect that. I really like
Yeah.
Sasha. I think we would enjoy talking to her.
Yeah.
Is there like a singular challenge about parenting a mashup kid? You know, she comes home with these questions, and those are hard conversations to have too, right? But as you said, she doesn't look brown. I mean, I feel like there's a part of Jonathan that wishes that maybe she looked browner, which comes with another whole set of...
Yeah, for sure. Although, like, what? I mean, like, I'm already upset that I'm not brown. So, like, do I think she's going to be, like, browner than me? I don't know. What?
You're throwing her out into the sun with...
Yeah.
She gets really brown in the summer.
She does get brown in the summer. But still, I mean, she doesn't look Latina necessarily. Or, like, what this weird image in my head is of Latina.
I mean, I think that's also really interesting, too. Like, you have decided what that image is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, it's what my dad looked like, and it's sort of what I saw in Southern California. And also, like, within my family, I was I was called güero, I had, like, Mexican cousins who were darker than me, who didn't live in the suburbs like I did. They lived in Hollywood, and, like, they were just, like, real badass LA Latinos, in a way that I was never going to be. I talk like this, So...
you were made for public radio.
Oh, God. I really, really hope not.
You just insulted me.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
Love you, Jonathan.
But Sasha, is there ways in which...
So I think the challenge is, like, that we're not surrounded by the cultures that we're trying to bring into her life. And so we have to fabricate that.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I made a decision this year that we were going to enroll in a community, in a secular Jewish community in our town that is really mainly for the children. And it's all just people like
you.
Me, who are like, I grew up with this, and I want to pass down these traditions, but I don't want the God stuff. And there's like a graduation project that they do instead of like a bat mitzvah. They like have to do a community service project that incorporates a lot of creativity and altruism. And I don't know. It's so laid back that it only meets every other week, which is like really my speed right now.
Yeah.
But I don't know what we're doing in terms of the Latino stuff.
I don't know. Yeah, it's really hard. I mean, because at least like in my life, even if I was confused, I lived in Southern California. I think I hadn't quite realized like how much it's just around you all the time.
Right.
Like when I go back home and I hear Latinos speaking, it's just there's like an LA Latino accent that just feels really good to hear, and
it feels like a womb.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
For sure.
Yeah.
And so Sasha doesn't have any of that, And so I think like the only thing really is food.
Do you feel okay talking about the culture shock of going to your sister's baby shower?
Like a month or so ago, we went back to California because to see family really, but it just so happened we were there for this time when my little baby sister, who is 20, she was having her baby shower, and it was like basically just a giant Mexican party, and I felt out of place there, but it is like, maybe you don't know this, Hillary, but it's like the thing, it's a very familiar out of place feeling,
right,
to me.
No, totally.
Where like I'd be at some big party, like there are really stereotypical Mexican looking people there, like I mean there's like guys with giant mustaches, like viejos with just really looking like straight up stereotypes, and just a boisterousness that I love being around, but also feel very uncomfortable because I don't like, I can't engage that way.
Well, you got to be in the corner spilling your coffee.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
But you're saying you actually enjoy being around it. There's
I
something
do.
energizing.
I do. Yeah. There's something that feels very familiar to me about it. I don't know what like.
Well, for me, it felt like we were exposing our daughter to like the other half of her culture that is not mine.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And
right.
I was like, yeah, so this is what we mean
Right.
when we say that like daddy is Latino.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
like the taco man shows up and cooks tacos for everybody at the
Right.
party.
Right.
And
How does Sasha receive all of that? Like, does she? She sounds like the kind of kid that was just like slide right in.
Yeah, I think so.
yeah, she was off like doing cartwheels with other girls.
Yeah.
right
yeah.
away.
Yeah. But I don't know that she understands it at all, really.
Right. Does she identify in any one way yet?
No. She does though. Like actually, because we went back to California, we landed, and we went to a restaurant, and within half an hour, she was like, "Daddy, there are more people here who look like you." Like she recognized, which shocked me really that she saw that. But like that thing I was feeling, I was like, like sliding back in my chair a little bit, like I'm hearing the voices, I'm seeing people. Like it was super surprising to me that she was seeing that too.
I can see him very desperately trying to improve his Spanish through apps and stuff. And getting really excited when Sasha speaks Spanish at home for a little while. She was in a bilingual classroom, and she can roll her R's way better than me. Her pronunciation is amazing. I love that she can roll her R's and do ch's. That's super important. Rebecca, I'm sure you can do all of that.
I try.
But with Jonathan, it's sad to me that I know it's hard in work life to be seen by other people the way he knows he is.
Right.
Something I think about sometimes is that there have been periods in history where it would have been totally to your advantage to be able to pass, and it might have been the difference between life and death.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Right? So we're in a period now where I've never seen as much, hatred for the two ethnicities that my daughter is. Mm-hmm. And I think we're in a period now where maybe that's part of what's motivating me to really educate her about her identities, about her ancestry, because we're in a period where like the more people who know Jews and Latinos and can relate to them will be.
I do too. But it was like a revelation of understanding, like, oh, like you can sort of look like me. Not that I look like him at all.
100%.
Yeah.
But that like, just basically that there was another way to be Mexican, that isn't the stereotype that you see in LA, whether that's like a farm worker or a vato, I feel like even among Latinos, that's kind of like the culture that's pushed forward, and just, like knowing that you could kind of be anything and be Latino. As someone in my early 20s, when the first time I saw him, that felt like a really big deal.
I think we talked about this a lot, like Diego Luna speaking the way that he speaks in Rogue One. Huge,
Get
right?
out of my brain, Amy. I was going to say that.
I'm in there already. Well, every time I think about Gael, I have to think about Diego because
obviously
of course.
we go together.
Yeah.
What about you, Hillary?
Yeah, it's
models.
Hard. It's hard for me to think about in like media, but I think about my family. So my cousin, who's 5 years older than me, married a Mexican woman before I even met Jonathan, and my younger brother married a Japanese woman, and they each have a daughter.
There are a lot of mashup girls.
Yeah. So they all they're all living in New York City or the New York City area, and they all know each other, and it feels really comfortable. Family gatherings, having these three girls who are mashups and mashed up couples. And I love that we like learn from each other's cultures.
Totally. It's a creating community. One piece of parenting advice that you would give.
Don't listen to anybody.
Yeah, because nobody knows what the fuck they're doing.
Everyone's going to tell you they know what they're doing. Nobody knows. Do what feels right.
I think I've never articulated this, but maybe it's like try to correct all the wrongs that were made with you, but don't feel bad when you don't do it.
That's a
right.
good one.
No, we say you just dilute it with each generation.
Yeah.
Slightly less
Yeah,
with
yeah.
each. You're not going to fix it all.
Yeah.
You can just a little bit less.
Yeah.
And then
But how about those times when you see yourself, you're like, oh no, I just saw it come out. I didn't even know it was there. That
the
wrong
time.
was just so. Anyways.
Yeah.
What's one piece of marriage advice?
They're looking at each other thoughtfully.
Yeah.
Headphones and microphones.
It's the Newlywed Game. Surprise!
I think a thing that has been really surprising to me is that all that, like, the women are from whatever the two Mars, Venus. I'm not
Men
gonna
are
get
from Mars, women are from Venus.
there. It is. Yes, you're right. I have been surprised how much that stuff is true. Like, I thought it was all bullshit. For the men that are listening, I think, like, we are different. And sometimes your woman just wants to say something to you, and she wants you to acknowledge that she said it. And you just have to say, yes, I heard that.
That's funny because I was going to say, just listen sometimes. That was my advice.
You guys,
Amen.
you are speaking our language,
yes.
right? Okay, so speed round, guys.
What is your comfort food?
So, like, in everyday life, it's mac and cheese. But, like, if we're getting ethnic, like, if I'm sick, I just really want my mom's matzo ball soup, which is my great-grandmother's recipe. And then, like, to top it all off, if it's, like, Passover time and they have, like, you have the little rolls that are, like, basically bread matzo balls, but not really bread because you can't eat bread, but it's, like, to get around not being able to eat bread.
What is this?
Do you know
I've
what I'm
never
talking about,
heard of
Rebecca?
No, I need this information. We're gonna
Yeah,
have
they're
to
like
find a
not
link and put it-
leavened. And then there are people, my mom used to do this when I was a kid, where you shape them into like a bagel shape. And it's like, no, we're not eating bread.
We're eating
gosh.
bagel-shaped wheat products. It's totally
We
fine.
love to make our way around a rule, don't we?
That's right.
What's your comfort food, Jonathan?
Beer. Maybe my mom's chicken tacos is like the closest thing. I don't even know like how Mexican it is though, the way she did it.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah.
So, what is your bubamisa?
I still think you can get a cold from being like wet and going outside in the cold.
Brown people have a real thing with being cold, though.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
do you feel like you need to cover your neck all the time?
I mean, I've never thought about it, but I do like scarves. But like every night, I blow dry Sasha's hair. Which
I
is
mean, that's crazy talk.
after her shower, and like there are times when Hillary's like, you know, it's like warm enough out, and I'm like, but her hair's all wet, like she can't go to sleep like this. So.
She has the most lovely little smooth hair, though.
I mean, it's nice. It's like she enjoys it. And
You mean she enjoys the blowout she gets from her dad every day?
Yeah.
I mean, that's awesome.
yeah. I mean, it's like a real moment of connection for us, I think.
When she gets sick, is there Vicks Vaporub involved?
No. Yes.
That's where we're drawing the line.
Yeah, that is one. Just because I had that shit smeared on me all the time, and it was terrible. Although I think it works.
Well,
I think it works.
We bought. Amy and I are bought in. We're just like, you know what? She was like, "Do you want to get the Honest brand one?" And I was like, "You know what?" In the end, let's just
I
stick
have
with
like
the good
9
stuff.
different varieties of Vaporub in my house at all times.
It cured me a lot.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're here today because of the Vicks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no question about that.
I mean, there were like, I think it caused like delusions too. Like if somehow it
Yeah.
always
could have chafed your skin.
Yeah.
Burned. Yeah. All those things.
Yeah.
like I
You had
just,
nightmares, Vaporub-induced nightmares.
yeah, just a lot of sweating and hallucinations and but yeah, that's what you have to do to get better.
Thank you both so much for doing this. You're our first couple on the show.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm honored.
Yeah.
I'm very
Yeah.
excited. And I feel like we touched on some things. We talked some stuff out.
We did.
I
We
think
did.
so.
Thanks for
Yeah,
having us
yeah,
on.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So live your life. You steady chasing that big car, just live your life. Ain't got no time for no haters, just live your life.
Jonathan and Hillary, you are welcome at Mariachi Shabbat anytime with your Salvadoran, Jewish, Eastern European SoCalness. I mean, we're basically family, so.
Totally family. So just as a reminder to our listeners, you are our family too. We love you in all of your mixed up, not matching, challenging, conflicted forms. You get to be who you are and who you want to be, even though it can be hard and confusing at times. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. You can find Hillary at Longest Shortest and Jonathan at John_Menjivar. The Mashup Americans are me, Amy Choi.
And me, Rebecca Lehrer. Our producer today is Jocelyn Gonzalez. Our show is produced by American Public Media and Southern California Public Radio, KPCC.
We're also supported in part by an award from the National Endowment for the Arts on the web at arts.gov. Ciao.
Adios.
Case and watch my future fade away.